Hi, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk to you about something that is always on our minds: stress. Stress is a natural, deep, ingrained part of our lives as human beings. We go around in our lives working, toiling, worrying about the world around us. We are constantly striving to find happiness and avoid stress, suffering, discomfort. And as we move through our lives, we find ourselves constantly encumbered by a heaviness, a feeling of potentially dread or weariness, a disturbance that is deep within that's holding us back from feeling free, liberated, happy, blissful, joyous, all the things that we're looking for. And oftentimes we look for the answer outside of ourselves. We, especially in this day and age, are looking for the next best thing. We're in a progressive mind state of trying to get something better than what we have now. But the reality of things is that doesn't necessarily pacify our stress. Maybe it pacifies it for a moment. For example, I love ice cream. When I have my first bite of delicious ice cream, in that moment, there is some relief. So there is some wisdom in looking outward, enjoying what I like, but that quickly passes. And then that heaviness, the stress of my day, the stress of my week or year returns. My worries return. My concerns return. And that is the paradigm of our human existence. We are always kind of trying to go around and soothe ourselves with external resources, external wants, external situations and pleasures and comforts. And it works, but only for a tiny, tiny while. And then afterwards, it's gone. And this feeling of stress, heaviness, returns. So we're constantly in this cycle of feeling stress and then alleviating that stress through some sort of striving. And this situation is, as time goes on, not sustainable. We might not like to look at it, but our lives are very temporary. And because of that, as we move through our lives, we age. And as we age, we are prone to sickness. And as we're more prone to sickness, eventually there will be some sort of sickness that causes us so much discomfort that it eventually takes our whole lives. This is the course that we are on. None of us can free ourselves from that truth, that eventually we will have to go through this process, that things will be harder, that stress will be greater, and that no matter what we look at for, there will be no way to pacify that stress anymore. It will eventually require us to succumb. That is the basis point for a set of wisdom traditions in the world that aspire to be free from this stress. This isn't a mythological situation. We all feel this stress. But is there a way to free us from this stress? Are there practices, simple ways of changing ourselves and the way that we view our world that can free us from having to endure this stress? So, first of all, when I was telling that little story just a moment ago, we were seeing how we look outside of ourselves for the solution for stress. What if we, instead of doing that, turned our minds within and instead of trying to pacify our stress outwardly, pacified our stress by changing our minds, by working with our minds, working with how we associate two different things that happen to us. As we start to acknowledge that it's possible to do that within our minds, that, hey, for example, I'm feeling a little sad and I look within and I see that sadness. I recognize, oh, the source of my sadness, for example, is some external thing. Maybe I ran out of ice cream in my situation. I can't get any ice cream, so I'm feeling a little bit extra aggressive or angsty or unhappy. Then the next moment, if I recognize that, I might be able to settle my mind in recognizing that that's impermanent. Eventually, I'll get my ice cream. Maybe not now, but if I have some patience, eventually the ice cream will return. Eventually, I will enjoy another bite of ice cream again. This type of practice is working with our own minds, and there are a myriad of these types of practices. Developing patience, developing discipline, mental fortitude. All of the foundations of these practices involve a sort of renunciation. A renunciation that if I'm looking outward for my joy, if I'm looking outward for uh, my stress to be alleviated, but actually that's a losing battle. So instead, I am going to work with the inward world. I'm going to renounce this clinging, this striving externally, and instead work with how my own mind associates with the various types of things that happen to me. If we do that, then what can occur is as these appearances or discomforts or stressors appear, then we'll remember that we're not going to jump out and try to solve that externally. We are going to first focus on our own minds and get into a place of patience, a place of recognizing that this is all going to work out, it's impermanent, and let go of that within. By noticing that this situation is impermanent, everything will eventually pass. The situation that we're not happy with will eventually settle itself down. If we notice that within, then first we can let go of our feelings of stress, our feelings of concern about whatever is going on uh, outside of us. If we build this into a lot of fortitude in our minds, and we build this and we have more and more strength and courage, then it can become a situation where our renunciation of trying to fixate to the world around us becomes so powerful that no matter what happens around us, including the end stage of life being the ultimate, as we are dissolving, our bodies are and minds are dissolving, and we are eventually passing away, that no longer frightens us. That this stress can no longer frighten us. So that's one method. First, recognizing this impermanence, the impermanence of everything, including these very unsettling moments, including the dying process. It is impermanent. Eventually, it is over. All the sickness, eventually, it's over. As we recognize that, we don't try to solve that by searching outside. We start to solve that by reflecting, meditating, having this fortitude and this courage of renunciation. Then inside, we become stronger and stronger. And no matter what happens around us, our minds are freer, more at peace, more gentle, more relaxed. And that's actually pretty blissful. It eventually becomes a blissful experience because we don't have this returning to this heaviness. The heaviness is actually being pacified by the fact that we are letting it go. It's just being let go. So as it comes back, it has not a lot to attach to. It can't really break our concentration, break our meditation, break our courage. And of course, this is a habit. This is a practice that we can all engage in. Now, the next part is in addition to this mindfulness renunciation practice, turning within rather than striving outside of ourselves to fix our stress. This second way to really solve some of the most indwelling stress, which is just actually embedded in the fact that we are a human being. We are an individual human being. If someone comes over and pokes us really hard in the arm, we're going to say, ow, we're going to notice that. That hurts. When we have these interpersonal relationships, there are individuals that get under our skin. There are individuals that, because of all of these conditions and causes and relationships, they hurt us. They hurt us emotionally. They hurt us by just hearing about them, right? The news right now, these days. We hear the news, and there are individuals in the news, whoever they may be, that hurt us emotionally. That we feel stress. We feel that stress rise up. So, how do we also pacify these types of interpersonal dramas that happen? It's not just that I don't have my ice cream, it's also that there are individuals in my life that I don't get along with, that don't get along with me for whatever reason. How do I let that go in a way that isn't creating a bigger problem, right? For example, if I am just a renunciating person and I close myself into a little hut somewhere and I don't tell any of my family or friends, you can be sure that people are going to find their way to my hut and start breaking down that door. Are you dead in there? They're going to think. And they will, of course, distress me in my meditative concentration. So it's not just renunciation that we must build to relieve us of our stress. It's also compassion. So with compassion, again, from this inward perspective, all of these different beings around us, some of them we do not have good relationships with in our minds. And they cause us a lot of emotional upheaval, even when they're just around us physically or we hear about them in some way. You might even be associating to me this way. You might be like, this guy's a little weird. He looks a little funny. I don't know if I like this guy. All of that type of emotional energy is in our hearts. It's actually within our minds. And it is stress. We can call it stress. We recognize it as stress. It doesn't make us feel good. It doesn't make us feel blissed out at all. So, how we can begin to solve this is we can start to look outside of ourselves and not without this renunciation, but actually towards these other people in our lives. We still have the renunciation, but we look out at all these individuals in our lives and we see, oh, wow, all of these people, all of these animals, all of these entities want to be happy. They don't want to have stress. They want to be happy just like me. And when we start to realize that all of these beings, all of these people, all these entities want to be free of stress and they want happiness, then we have a lot in common. Actually, we have everything in common. We all are in that situation. We all feel that. We all feel this heaviness. And that's so, so sad, actually. You might be able to hear my voice. It's so, so sad that we find ourselves in a situation that isn't pure blissful all the time, that we have to endure sickness, that we have to endure these situations that make us feel small and alone and scared. It's so tough for us. And it's not just tough for me, and it's not just tough for you. It's tough for everybody. It's tough for everybody. When we start to bring that into our hearts, then we start to develop a sense of connection with everybody. We're not alone in this. Everybody's with us in this. Even those that have developed maybe methods, maybe ideas about how to solve this that are very, very distressing to us. Even they are trying, and actually, in some ways, because of how wild some of these behaviors are, you can see how much they suffer within. You can see how much they just want people to love them. They just want to be great. They just want to be free of death. They just want not to suffer and to enjoy life. We all see that. And some of it, a lot of it, is very, very sad because it's not working, because it can't help them, because eventually we all will get sick, we all will pass away. And some people are creating so much anxiety in this and are so upset with others and so trying, clinging to the external world of wants and needs that they're cutting everybody out. They're burning all their relationships down. And as they're doing that, they're feeling smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so they are more and more alone in their hearts, which is more afraid at the time death, more afraid as they get sick, more afraid deep down. We've been there. We know this in ourselves. We've experienced this too. We all have had this stress. When we start to feel this truth of our mutual stress and our mutual desire to be happy and our mutual feelings of not being happy at all at certain times, we can begin to gain stronghold of compassion because we can feel that there's a connection there. Even though the moment before we might have viewed this individual as just a harmful individual, when we start to meditate on this truth of wanting to be happy, wanting to be free from suffering, and not doing a good job at that, so burning bridges and feeling even smaller and more alone, we start to realize that we're all doing that we're all in this together. And in that way, we can start to develop compassion. As we develop this compassion, our heart begins to open. Then, as people, entities, animals, whoever, interact with us in ways that are a little bit uncomfortable, make us feel alone, don't make us feel as great as we might want to be feeling. As that occurs, we can let go of it because we realize that they're just stuck in their own heads. They can't recognize us. We can't recognize them. We haven't recognized them as beneficial. They haven't recognized us as beneficial. As we realize that, then this can foster a feelings of not wanting others to suffer in this way, not wanting them to be stressed and feel alone. And that then compels us to various activity, wanting to make people feel safe. Oh, they dropped their phone on the ground. Oh, I'm going to go hurry to pick it up so that they know there's someone else in this world that's looking out for them. There's someone else that loves them. There's someone that sees that they too can free themselves from this. When we start to develop this compassion in combination also with this meditative renunciation, recognizing that the external world is not going to necessarily make us happy. So now we're turning within and we're changing our responses, letting go of the things that are upsetting us. Once we combine these, and we can combine these, we're doing this so that all beings, all of these various humans around us as well, that suffer so much, will feel love, will be radiated with this love, and will feel strength themselves to go on their own path, their own journey, where they can find their inner calm. They can find their inner compassion too. By first doing this ourselves for others' benefits, so that others don't have to feel so alone and dejected, then what ends up happening is we quickly become perfected. We quickly become liberated from this stress. Any stressors that come out externally are pacified by these two types of mindfulness exercises. Either one, letting go of the event doesn't really matter, it's impermanent, it's passing. I'm not going to let myself get worked up by it because if I do, I'm also harming others. These other people are going to be harmed by me stressing out because I will uh, push them away with my stress. That's what happens in the world. As I'm trying to pacify my stress, I'm going to be interested in only myself. So, by working on this renunciation and recognition of impermanence, I will also help others because in my stress free attitude, it will naturally help others be courageous to be stress free too. So this works back and forth, back and forth. Wisdom and compassion, wisdom of impermanence, compassion for everyone. And all of that eradicates stress, eradicates dread, and makes us feel very, very free. So, this teaching is a summation, actually, of the original Buddha Shakyamuni's Four Noble Truths put into a slightly different modality with influences from the wisdom traditions of the Mahayana as well. So, but this is something we can all achieve. This is something that we can all practice. And in that way, we can benefit everyone around ourselves while benefiting ourselves, benefiting our minds, freeing ourselves from fear, freeing ourselves from loneliness, and really also being a wellspring of benefit for those in our immediate circles. So thank you so much for listening today. I hope there's something in my words that rang true in your ears, in your hearts, that you will aspire to put into practice. If you have never heard about any of this and you feel like, wow, that sounds pretty radical, and I don't know if I can, that's okay. Let's just make the aspiration together. The aspiration we'll make together is by all of this teaching, by all of this consideration of these words, may we be free from suffering. May we be free from stress. May we all be able to be liberated. And as we are liberated, may we truly benefit the world around us so that everyone, without exception, stops the stressful activity that harms others and instead embraces this beautiful activity of compassion and renunciation, this letting go and wisdom imbued with benefiting others continuously so that the world can be at peace, the world can be benefited, everyone that we know will be free of worry and concern. That is my aspiration, my heart aspiration, and I hope that you will join me in that aspiration. Thank you so much. Please be well.